Activists attending the COP27 climate conference in Egypt held a demonstration on Tuesday, calling on countries to stop funding new gas projects in Africa. Faced with an energy crisis because of Russia's war in Ukraine, Western nations have been looking elsewhere to shore up their supply.
If your country is breaking a promise not to finance new fossil fuel development overseas by investing in new gas infrastructure in Africa, then you are not a climate leader. If your country's planned expansion of oil and gas development would by itself put the 1.5 degrees Celsius target out of reach, then you are not a climate leader. So I ask each of the leaders here today, will you be on the right side of history?
Nakati is one of many African climate activists taking aim at world leaders who continue to back new fossil fuel projects despite warnings from scientists. Protesters called for climate justice while standing next to an inflatable pipeline carrying the words, "Don't gas Africa."
The Russia-Ukraine crisis has caused increased demand for gas in Africa. There is a new project now, Nigerian, you would have heard of the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline project, taking gas from Nigeria through Morocco to Europe. And we are saying we don't want that to happen.
Don't gas Africa! Don't gas Africa!
Environmental groups say they've counted more than 600 delegates at the conference with links to the fossil fuel industry.
Countries of the global north have been shopping for gas in Africa, using the energy crisis at the moment, the war in Ukraine and the energy poverty in Africa as a pretext to start doing gas production in Africa. What that means is obviously opening up new gas fields, oil fields, and also putting the entire carbon budget at risk.
With warnings that new fossil fuel projects will push global temperatures to dangerous highs, scientists say the 1.5 degrees target is already likely to be missed. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed told Parliament on Tuesday that the ceasefire agreement between his government and forces in Tigray would be implemented honestly. The two sides signed a further deal in Kenya on Saturday on the full implementation of the truce reached between the warring sides some 2 weeks ago. There's no such thing as a good war or a bad peace. War is always bad, even if you're winning. You kill people and spit out dollars. There's no gain from it. We took the first step. We have discussed, agreed and signed. We must keep our word by making our promise to peace a reality. Abiy added that the agreement was necessary to ensure that peace in the northern Tigray region would be sustainable. It's hoped it'll bring an end to the brutal 2-year conflict, which has left thousands dead, millions displaced, and hundreds of thousands facing famine. Both sides have pledged to allow unhindered international aid into the region.
Kenyan Malcolm Bidali was jailed for 4 weeks in Qatar before being deported for denouncing the working conditions of migrants in the country. His whistleblowing led to a huge scandal around the Gulf nation's credibility as a worthy host nation of the 2022 World Cup. Now, the 30-year-old is feeling conflicted about watching the competition.
When all the cameras have left, all the journalists have left, all the fans have left, it will be the migrant workers and the employers and the state, and I believe it will be very difficult to keep them, to keep even the already introduced reforms, leave alone introducing new ones. So what happens when all that is over? Understand? I'm actually very fearful, to be honest.
Qatar has faced widespread criticism over its treatment of foreign workers, rights for women and the LGBTQ community in the run-up to the tournament, which ends on December 18. Rights groups have complained about unpaid wages and unreported deaths on construction sites. The Gulf nation has carried out major reforms that have been praised by international unions, but Bidali remains among the doubters. The World Cup begins on November 20 in what will be the first winter edition in the history of the competition.
Former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta greeting officials on the tarmac at Goma Airport in the eastern DRC. His visit comes as soldiers are engaged in renewed clashes with M23 rebels to the north of the key city. On Monday in Kinshasa, he called on all parties in the conflict to lay down their arms and nurture a sense of patriotism. Kenyatta is a mediator in the East African community's attempts to bring about peace in the east of the DRC. Recent fighting in the region has forced hundreds of already displaced people to flee their refugee camps south of Kibumba and head towards Goma. The M23 has seized swathes of territory in North Kivu province and is getting closer to the city. The East African community is to hold a round of talks next week in the Kenyan capital Nairobi, aimed at diffusing the crisis. Senegalese football fans gathered in Dakar on Tuesday, just days before the start of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. They wanted to show their support for the national team, the Lions of Teranga, who play their first game against the Netherlands on Monday. The other African teams in the competition are Cameroon, Tunisia, Morocco and Ghana.